In this lecture, we'll introduce the basic elements of a Java program.
Now, before we actually start coding, we need to understand what a program is and what a computer program and programming in general are. So yes, we need to learn how to crawl before we learn how to run a 30K marathon. So a computer program, or we'll probably just say program, is simply a sequence of statements that's intended to accomplish some task. Programming is the process of designing, planning, and creating the program. So in order to properly learn a programming language, you're going to need to practice writing programs. I mean, think about your math classes. You can't just sit in class and listen to the instructor and expect to absorb all the material and just know everything without doing a single math problem. Some of you may be able to, but most probably not. I know I can't. So if you want to really understand the programming language, you're going to have to write programs. And in this class, you will be writing plenty of programs.
You've already seen some examples of writing programs in your lab. Now we're going to take a look at another example and we can see some of the basic elements and concepts of Java. So we're first going to take a look at an output statement. So let's do a sample program to do that for us. So we'll do public class and we'll give it some name. I'll call it program. And then we'll include our main method, public static void main. If I can type, that'd be great. String args. And we're going to use what's called the print line method, where all this does is just takes whatever is in our parentheses and it just outputs that to our screen. So we do system.out.println or print line, and I'll put in quotes my first program, although this is technically a lie because we did the hello world program before, but sure enough, we're just going to go with this anyway. Let's go ahead and compile this. We need to save it, so we'll save it. It compiles. We'll click on run. And sure enough, we print my first program, which really isn't anything different from what we saw in the hello world program. So this system.out.println method just takes whatever's in our parentheses and evaluates it, and then we just display it on our screen. Now, in this case, anything that's in double quotes, like my first program here, is what we call a string. And a string will evaluate to itself. So we just simply display the string. So all we're just saying here is whatever we put in quotes just gets automatically printed to the screen, just like this. So we get our string here. Now, what if we want to print several things? Maybe we want to combine different statements, or maybe we have like numbers that we want to include in our strings. Well, the plus operator will allow us to do that. In this case, when we add a plus sign in our print line parentheses, we can concatenate the strings, which just simply means we can combine them into one giant string. So let's do an example of that. So we can do system.out.println, and we can say the sum of 2 and 3 equals plus 5. So let's try that. So what this plus sign does is just, it actually looks at two different things in here. So we have the string over here. So this is just going to be normal. It's going to print out the sum of 2 and 3 equals. And this part right here is an integer. And this is going to actually be converted into a string. So then what this plus sign does is it combines these two strings into one giant string. So let's compile it and run it and see what we get. So compile, we run. So the sum of 2 and 3, sure enough, equals 5. So even though 5 is an integer in here and it's not a string, it gets converted into a string, and then we print it. Seems easy enough, right? Let's do one more example. Let's do system.out.print, and let's just do like 7 plus 8 equals, and let's just do 7 plus 8. So maybe here I want to take 7 plus 8, turn that into 15, and then print that out. So this should work, right? Well, let's go ahead and compile and run it and see what we get. So it's compiled. Let's run it. 7 plus 8 equals 78. Yeah, that didn't work. And the reason, I knew this ahead of time, don't worry. Remember that the 7 and the 8 get converted to strings, and this plus sign concatenates everything, remember? So what I did is I just took the 7 and 8 and concatenate them into a giant string. And last time I checked, 7 plus 8 does not equal 78. So to fix this, what we need to do is we need to put our expression in parentheses. So if we want to actually evaluate an expression in our print statement, we put it in parentheses. And so what will happen here is we'll do the 7 plus 8, evaluate that to 15, then that gets converted to a string, and then we concatenate that to the 7 plus 8 equals string. So let's try this one more time. So we'll compile. Let's run it. And sure enough, we do get 15 here. So 7 plus 8 is 15. So the whole point here is that we can do a print statement that outputs different things, and we have some tricks for handling each part. If we want to print just some string, we just surround it in quotes. If we want to concatenate additional strings or values, we use a plus sign. And if we want to take the results of an expression and then include that, then we can just surround it in parentheses, and then it'll do the evaluation, and then we concatenate the result.
As we talked about in the last lecture, the basic unit of a Java program is a class. Now, every Java class is going to consist of one or more methods. And for now, just think of a method as this sequence of instructions or a sequence of statements where the objective is to accomplish some task. We will talk about methods in more detail later on. So in the example we just went over, if you look at the line public class program, the very first line of our program, the word program would be the name of our Java class. Now after this line, you must have a pair of curly braces afterwards. Without it, it's part of the syntax rules. You're required, you're stuck with it. And what is entered between the curly braces would be the body of the class. So this would be all the other methods that we would call that are associated with that class. And since a class does have one or more methods, we probably want to talk a little bit about it at least. So every method must have what we call a heading. So here's an example. The line public static void main string args would be a heading for our main method. Now a Java class can have at most one main method. And to take it one step further, a Java program must have a main method somewhere. Now let me explain the difference here. So if we're going to run our complete program, there must be a main method. This tells us where we start following the sequence of instructions to run our program. But it doesn't mean a Java class must have a main method. You could have two different classes where one class has the main method and another class just has some additional methods that our main method in the first class would call on. So that's why we say that a Java class can have at most one main method. But you can't have two. If you try to put two main methods in a program, it's going to get a compile error. It's going to blow up on you. Smoke and flames, all that stuff. You don't want that. That's just really bad. Just don't do it. And similar to classes, each method would have its own pair of curly braces. And what goes in the curly braces there would be the body of the method or the sequence of steps to run that particular method.